Welcome back. Still watching the daily debate. Mrs. Sherihan Qammash, as we did state that we'll be speaking more about the imposition or the reimposition of sanctions against Iran. In your opinion, what is the main objective to be doing this at this critical time against Iran?
Well, we have to know the history first so we can know and understand what's going on right now and to have a vision on the future. So the agreement was on 2015 between US and Iran, and then US withdrew in 2018 during, of course, the first term of Trump. And now after 10 years, they have reimpose one more time the sanctions on Iran by the United Nations. So it's a very critical time because all the negotiations or diplomatic negotiations between Iran, all the European countries and US and Israel didn't have a lot of options, and they didn't accept all the demand for United States. We need to talk about the demands that United States asked Iran to do, and she didn't accept to do it. First of all, it was, of course, the enrichment of the uranium to be zero. However, Iran is doing it from 20 to 60% in pretending, or they are saying that this cannot make nuclear arms, and they are using only the nuclear energy to have electricity, source of energy, and to help in many fields like medicine, for example. But the United States, they want them to be 0%. The second demand from United States to Iran, it was about the ballistic missiles to be limited to 500 kilometers. And this also, Iran didn't accept it. So the diplomatic options here are not a lot, yes. Especially after the foreign ministers of France, Germany and UK, they declared or reposed the snapback sanctions on Iran, which is Iran see this is unlawful and illegal because they cannot have this or do this on Iran. Meanwhile, we have Israel, but it's not in the front image. It's also and all the time in the back image and in the big image for United States. They are allies. Everyone knows that Israel and United States, they are very good allies, very strong between them, all the agreements, and in the end of the day, United States, they look for the security or national security of Israel. Iran, in other words, she supports Hamas, she supports Hezbollah, she supports Houthi in Yemen. So this is also a threat for Israel. And of course, using the nuclear energy and making nuclear arms. So it's a global threat. That's why the United Nations, they imposed or reimposed the sanctions on Iran in this time, especially this time.
So in your opinion, do you think that those sanctions will be to be limiting the development of uranium, to be de-escalating the nuclear capabilities of Iran, or to be pushing them once again to the negotiating table?
Well, Iran is always on the negotiation table. However, those sanctions, they are there to put pressure on Iran and its economy. The economy in Iran is already has problems. But it's not going to be a catastrophic because Iran is the country which has the most sanctions during the history and all over the world. Yes. So this already exists in them. They have already problems in their economy. So this to put pressure on the Iranian economy. However, the inflation will be higher. And of course, the currency, the Iranian currency, will lose a lot of its weight. However, Iran, due to their diplomatics, they said that the sky will not fall. See till which point they talk very strong. They said that with the relationships they have and their allies, they can overcome this and they can survive those sanctions. However, the sanctions are huge. From my point of view, it will of course make pressure on the economic and put a lot of limits for Iran due to technology, because it's on its asset freeze, also on the arms and banks, and also to movement of some diplomatics. So it's gonna make a difference, and it will limit Iran to have the latest technology, for example, in some arms. However, they continue because it's now it's a problem of sovereignty as well. You know that they attacked Iran and directly from Israel and United States. Even after the rounds has been happened and had place between US and Iran in Oman, after those rounds and this bilateral negotiation, Israel attacked Iran, and then Iran had to reply. This was the 12 days war in June. But we can also say that this didn't make any change for Iran, and they continue their program in pretending or saying that the program is a peaceful program, peaceful nuclear program, and it's for civilian usage, not to make any nuclear arms.
You've mentioned the amount of sanctions against Iran. Do you think that the new sanctions or the reimposition of those sanctions, you've mentioned the ones by Germany, France and the United Kingdom, the E3, there is the United Nations, the United States and the European Union. So are the new sanctions conflicting with the older ones or complementing them?
They are the same. Actually, it's the snapback. It means it will re-happen again directly, and all the countries that deal with Iran, they have to look for this and they have to put it in action directly. And of course, that's why China and Russia, they tried, they made a lot of effort to delay those sanctions, because you know that China, she's the biggest buyer for Iranian oil. At the end of the day, China is an industrial country. They want their factories to keep running. So it's not good for them that will have sanctions on Iran, because this will limit, we can say, the import and export between Iran and China. And this also the same for Russia, because they can help Russia during the war they have with Ukraine due to arms, because also Iran, they make arms. So it's very hard for Iran and its allies in this time, because it's going to limit them in multiple domain and multiple, I can say, industry for the arms, the technology and many other domains.
So what about the consequences from the Iranian side? How do you think they will be responding?
Well, it's a tricky question, actually, Ahmed.
Yes.
I don't think that they have a lot of options due to negotiations, and I'm not sure about if this will make and will repose military actions.
Yes.
Because they called already their ambassadors from France, UK and Germany, and in politics we know that calling the ambassadors, this means declare war. However, they said that they called them just to make negotiations and see how it's gonna work or how they can go again to negotiations. However, the United Nations and European countries, they said that negotiations are still on and they still can stay on one table with Iran. However, I think that Iran, in this time, they are waiting for different administration in United States. Because, as we all know, that United States, they play the police of the world. They say who will be traded, who we will make war with, who should live in peace now.
Does this mean that the change of Trump or Biden, for example, would be a change of policy?
Yes. Trump is a game changer here. In his first term, he withdrew from the nuclear agreement, and this made already a problem. I think that Iran, they are waiting for the presidency of Trump to finish so they can have more time and to have a new agreement with the new administration in United States.
On the other hand, how do you see the role of diplomacy in general, not just from the Iranian side? You've mentioned Russia and China, and on the other hand, there is France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and of course the United States and the European Union. How can this negotiation process be taking place with all those players involved?
Diplomacy is always the solution. Diplomacy is the first step that all countries should take, and the army or the action army should be in the end, the last step.
Yes.
However, Iran, she's, you know, and she's not an Arab country, however, she's a neighboring country. And she's neighbor to, of course, Israel and a lot of Arab countries. So a lot of countries, for their interest, they try to put pressure on Iran to go back to negotiations, because war is not going to make peace for any country in the world. So they always negotiation or diplomatic negotiation should take place, and it always have the first priority for all the countries, of course.
We have seen over the past couple of weeks the participation of Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati in the United Nations General Assembly meetings, the 80th session, and during those meetings and during his participation, a meeting was held between Foreign Minister Abdulati and his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi to be discussing the Iranian nuclear file, because there was an agreement between Iran and the International Energy Agency, or the International Atomic Energy Agency. Here in Cairo, there was a meeting and there was an agreement. Why do you think this agreement did not lead to a breakthrough in negotiations between both parties?
Because Iran now, it's not only about the energy. They want to continue this program because you know that they killed one of the leaders and ministers, it's early a few months ago. So it's not only about the nuclear program.
Yes.
It's now about sovereignty. It's now about continue this, and no pressure will be on Iran. Iran is very clever, and they know how to negotiate. They know how to have their place and confront Israel and United States. And actually, she showed that Israel cannot do this alone. When she attacked Israel, a lot of vessels, they went to the Israel sites. So always Israel needs United States to be like to make a cover or security cover on Israel. So this showed us that Israel is not as strong as they showing all the time on the media, or using the very high-tech technology and arms. So Iran is there with their nuclear program. Of course, no one in this world needs a nuclear arms or nuclear program, not used to be as peace or peaceful arms. However, they will continue on their program in hope or praying that another administration, United States, will be there so they can make another deal with them or agreement. And in this time only, they can, I can say, stop these sanctions on Iran from the United Nations and from the European countries.
Yes, stopping those sanctions or delaying the application of those sanctions. What is the role of China and Russia in this process? On the other hand, how do you see the stance of the Gulf states, for example, being engaged in this situation, especially that they are neighboring countries to Iran?
That's why I will start with Arab countries and Gulf countries, because of course there will be impact on Gulf countries. What do you think if they see fuses and missiles, they are on the sky? So of course their economic should be impacted. And they don't want this, because we already, the whole world, they had many crises, starting with COVID and then the international economic crisis for all the countries. Nobody wants this, or no government want to continue on this. So of course, peace and peace and peace should be and should have place in the Middle East and due to Gulf countries, which they are neighboring to Iran, and of course, for example, Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and there is Houthi over there, which Iran, they are supporting Houthi. That's why also United States and Israel, they want to limit the force and the arms of Iran. So it's not only the sanctions on Iran, the big image has many other parties than Iran and United States. They have Israel, they have Iran, Gulf countries, and of course European countries. And the biggest allies for Iran, which are China, she's the biggest buyer for oil from Iran, and Russia. They were always allies and very strong allies since World War II.
Can those sanctions be pushing Iran to be finding other allies other than Russia and China? For example, India, we have seen rapprochement between both countries, specifically in the field of exchanging goods with the Iranian oil in the past years, something which was criticized by the United States. Do you think that this will be pushing, those sanctions will be pushing Iran into finding other allies in the region and maybe worldwide?
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid that Iranian may take another action, like for example withdraw from NPT, and this is going to be catastrophic because in this time they will not have any limits or any law. They think that this unlawful to be reimposed one more time those sanctions. That's why I think that Iran will try to find another solution, for example, a light economy or different markets. And also they will try to push and to work harder with their allies to find a solution. As the diplomatic from Iran, he said, the sky will not fall. They will find another solution. So those sanctions will of course make pressure on the Iranian economic, and in the market it's already the prices are already increased from 20 to 30%, and all the Iranians, they felt so since day one.
Yes.
Let me tell you also that the opinion or public opinion in Iran, some of them, they started to think and to feel that this is a big burden on them to have this program, because of course the increase of the prices, and there will be isolation. So more than or bigger than the economic crisis and increase the prices is the isolation. They will be isolated, and this is a bigger problem because they will not be updated. They will not take the latest arms due to technology, of course, and to many others products that will have sanctions and increase the price because of these sanctions. So any country will deal with Iran, they will be looked up from United States.
As part of the problem and part of the solution is the U.S. President Donald Trump, and in some breaking news, he is meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House as we are speaking today. And in some statements of the U.S. President, he thanked the Arab and the Islamic states, and more specifically Egypt and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the mediation efforts between the Israeli occupation forces and the Palestinian fighters of Hamas to be finding a solution and an immediate ceasefire. How would you comment on such a statement by the American president?
Well, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is always there for Palestinians. We know that Egypt have been there for Palestinians since 1948, not since October 7. This is one of the biggest problems, or it's already one of our cases. Palestine is in every Egyptian civil here. So we of course support Palestine. We will never leave this, and of course we will try to be there for any negotiation and be the third party between Israel and Hamas all the time.
And we have seen the 21-point plan being proposed by the U.S. President to be ending the war or the aggression from the Israelis against the Palestinians. Do you think that this will be accepted by both sides?
Well, what I'm sure about is that Trump, he's there to his own pride. He wants to win the Nobel Prize for peace. But I think that he's always there for Israel and taking their back. It's not about Palestinian, it's not about Arabic country. They want the land, and I think that till now they successful and they succeed to do it and to take land and sites from Palestine. But also we try to help them with aid and negotiations. But also this is not enough. However, we are always there, and diplomacy and Egyptian diplomacy, they are very smart about this. It's one of the strongest arms we have in Egypt.
Yes.
And I have very big confidence in our government and of course President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that we will have always the higher hand between the Arab countries, because you know that if Egypt is there, so the Middle East is safe.
Yes, if he is doing out of pride and for some personal glory, if he could achieve it, but he had failed in doing this and that, because he had promised to be ending the war between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours.
Half an hour.
He didn't do that.
Yes.
And he has failed so far in reaching an agreement or ending the aggression by the Israelis against the Palestinians. So this time around, do you think that this will be successful to be ending the aggression?
Well, this is one of the, I can say, catastrophes of Trump persona. Yes. He always revolutionary. He's not going by the book. He never or went with diplomacy and politics by the book or the classic and tradition, politics and diplomacy, as we all know it. He always talk high, he used Twitter the first term. Right now he always talk about, I'm gonna do this, I'm the problem and I'm the solution. So this is part of his persona. But I don't think that Trump, he claims this or he wants this only for the good of the countries.
Yes.
All he cares about is the national security of Israel, because this is how he was re-elected by also the groups in United States, by the Jewish groups. So it's all about elections there. He knows that he will not be elected again. It's fine. So he had 2 terms. He will not be elected again. He would just want to live there for his own pride. So I don't think that Trump is working right now for the good or for the interest for the other countries, but Israel and its national security.
On the other hand, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Friday, he stated that we have sympathy for the Palestinians. We are trying to be negotiating a ceasefire. We are trying to be hosting a conference for the reconstruction and the recovery of the Palestinians of the Gaza Strip more specifically, and of course the distribution and the entry of the humanitarian aid from Egypt into the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border crossing. All of this was explained by President al-Sisi on Friday during his visit to the military academy. How do you see the importance of clarity and transparency between the Egyptian president and the people of Egypt, because there was some pressure on the Egyptian authorities to be forcing the distribution of aid into the Gaza Strip, to be finding more solutions even on the military level, something that was rejected by the officials, rejected by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, stating that this will be a risk for the Egyptians and this will be against the treaties that we have signed between Egypt and the other side of the equation. How do you see those statements?
Well, I will start with the reconstruction plan.
Yes.
Trump, he said that he will rebuild the Middle East Riviera. However, the plan and reconstruction plan is made by Egyptians, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he declared that we will do all needs and all the constructions and infrastructure needed for Palestine to rebuild Gaza again. And of course, the question and the case of AIDS, it's already there. We paid and we spent the most country for this, even if the other countries, they have bigger economy than us, but we paid the more for AIDS, and we still till now trying to help Palestinians, because this case will not end. And of course, it's not about pressure on the Egyptian government, because we don't need this. We're already there for them. However, I think that it's very important, as you said, the clearancy of the Egyptian situation, how we will do this. And because you know that right now the international public opinion is very important, and it's a game changer in this, because right now we never saw all this in the world taking place and support Palestinian and civilians like now. So the public and international public opinion has a big role right now. Of course, the media and social media, it helps a lot to work on this and to help Palestinians to show what's happening over there, attacking civilians and destroy hospitals and all the places they stay in. So all of this makes pressure not on Egypt but on Israel and the American administration.
You mentioned a very important point, which is the recognition of a number of big states such as France, the United Kingdom, Portugal, Australia, Canada. All of those states, they have recognized a Palestinian state, speaking of the international community and the international public opinion. How do you think this will be changing how the ordinary citizen anywhere in the world seeing the situation? Because it's always the narrative that Israel is the victim. They are trying to defend their country. They were promised this land 3,000 years ago.
Yes.
So how do you think this will be changing how people see the situation, that Israel is the aggressor?
Well, it's crystal clear for everyone.
Yes.
Since day one, this happened October 7. So everyone or every civilian, they cannot accept this to happen to children or to people who lives on their own land.
Yes.
This is illegal, and they passed the limits and all the international law. They, I can say that they violate all the international law and the sovereignty of states of Palestine. And right now, before or earlier, Qatar, and before that, Yemen, Lebanon, and also in Libya and Iraq. So they pass, and I can say they pass all the international law limits. And the United States, that's what is, for me, is not clear. How come the United States, or United Nations, I'm sorry, they reimpose sanctions on Iran because she has nuclear program, and in the same time, they cannot stop Israel from killing civilians. So this is contraction for the diplomacy and the politics, the international politics, that can never be resolved right now. We're just waiting and play with the time. We need to change administrations in Israel and in United States. We need more support from all the countries, European or American or Arab or Gulf countries, to stop all the catastrophic situation in Palestine.
Yes, this contradiction and the double standards, because this is something that was mentioned by Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati at the United Nations in the 80th meetings, or the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, that those are double standards. They are very clear. They are being applied on Iran, for example, the sanctions, on Russia, on the other hand, and none were given to Israel. When and how can this end? Who can end it?
It will never end. Due to the history, due to the Jewish traditions, due to America, that she's always supporting Israel, it will never end. Israel and America, they are very strong allies. Europe and America, they are very strong allies. And in the end of the day, who control is the most strong country, which is United States of America. So they play and they do the role of police of the world. They are the most strong country. They have the biggest economy in the world, so they can do this. They also have military forces around the world. America, she has the most or the biggest military forces around the world. And in Qatar, this is what is very comic, or black comic as we say. They are allies to Qatar, however, they gave the green light to Israel to attack Qatar. So
Qatar is mediating as well.
Yes, correct. So this is the, as you said, the contradiction between what America is saying and what they are doing, and how strong they are supporting Israel to have national security for Israel, because she's there for America in the Middle East. So she's the most strong allies for America in the Middle East is Israel. So United States has to always keep the national security of Israel, to have an ally, to have strong allies in the Middle East.
On the other hand, the sanctions being imposed, or once again reimposed against Iran, have they hit just the nuclear facilities, or the banking sector, the energy sectors? What are the sectors that are being targeted by those sanctions, and why?
A lot of parties there. Asset freeze, banks, arms, and many other domains and products that will be under pressure after those sanctions. So back again to the sanctions reimposed by United Nations on Iran, I can say that it might have a bad impact. Maybe Iran will make a military move. Maybe they will withdraw from NPT. So this is going to be a very big step, because as you know that the International Atomic Agency, they try and they seek to make sure that all the nuclear programs, they are used peacefully and not to military arms. However, they are trying to stay on the program, because this is what they have now. They have been attacked in their own land. Nuclear sites have been attacked by United States and by Israel on its own land. Diplomats has been killed, ministers and many leaders from Iranian politics. So right now it's not only about nuclear program, but it's about also the sovereignty of Iran. And she's always been there on negotiation tables, and they said we're gonna still stay on a negotiation table. However, we're not sure if they will make an action or military action or not. If there is no diplomacy, negotiation, agreement, what will happen next will be an action or military action. And this is going to be a catastrophe, of course.
So domestically, for both Iran and Israel, how do you see the situation economically and politically, especially for Israel, because they are involved against the Palestinians in a genocide war against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and building settlements in the West Bank, for example. How do you see both sets of peoples, the Iranians against their government and the Israelis against their government, on the economic and the political levels?
Well, the Israeli economic is always supported by United States, so I don't think pressure will be there for them, or anything will happen to put pressure on them, like inflation or a price increase. However, pressure will be there on the Iranian economy. Prices will increase, inflation will be higher, and of course the currency, Iranian currency, will lose a lot from its weight. So the more pressure, or the pressure that has the most problem in the economy, will be for the Iranian. Back to Iranian and the government. They said that it's burden for them. Some of them, of course, they cannot speak freely that in Iran. However, Iran, from my point of view, they will continue their program. And in the same time, U.S. will continue for the same two demands, which is zero enrichment for the uranium, and of course the ballistic missiles to be limited to 500 kilometers. And Iran will always on their word, and they will always say that their nuclear program is only for peaceful matters, to have energy, to have electricity, to help them to be updated, and many other domains like medicine, like arms.
Yes, Mrs. Sherihan Qammash, the international relations researcher and expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you for having me today. Good night and thank you.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you next week.